This is crazy. It looks like the Indiana Fever are facing major punishment from the league. That's right. The WNBA could be coming down hard on the Indiana Fever for misrepresentation on the injury report when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
Every massive corporate cover-up has a terrifying, unavoidable moment when the fraudulent financial paper trail becomes so obvious, the lies become so tangled, and the arrogance becomes so blinding that the governing body is forced to drop the crushing hammer. The Indiana Fever front office has been acting like a renegade, untouchable mafia for weeks. They have mistreated their generational superstar, manipulated the media, and treated their paying consumers like naive piggy banks. However, the period of no responsibility just collided brutally with reality's solid brick wall. The spectacular, disastrous culmination of the 2026 season in Indianapolis has finally arrived. The league administration of the WNBA is no longer ignoring this. The Indiana Fever will soon be subject to one of the harshest, unprecedented penalties in professional women's basketball history when the investigators knock on their doors. Welcome back. We are tearing the doors off the hinges of the most reprehensible, cunning, and legally risky front office scandal we have ever seen. We are combining the cold, hard, unquestionable laws of the WNBA collective bargaining agreement with the unadulterated, unreserved wrath of a conned fan base. We are dissecting the smoking gun evidence that demonstrates head coach Stephanie White and the Fever front staff deliberately conspired to conceal Caitlin Clark's injury condition with the clear, direct objective of robbing their own devoted supporters of ticket and retail revenue. The league office is getting ready to make a huge, highly public example out of this toxic organization. So if you thought the empty seats were the worst of their issues, get ready for the shockwave. Conflicting reports have been leaked, and the lies have been captured on high-definition audio. Let's create the stage and reveal the Indiana Fever's whole, unadulterated web of deceit during the disastrous Portland Fire game.
WNBA rules, where it says WNBA injury reporting rules require teams to officially disclose players' ability by 5 p.m. local time on the day before a game. If a player's participation is affected by an injury, illness, medical condition, or rest, teams must designate a participation status and identify the exact reason. And this is what the Indiana Fever failed to do. They did not put Caitlin Clark on an injury report at all, and this is why they may be facing very stern punishment from the league.
By now, the fundamental details of the reporting breach have been fully established. According to the WNBA collective labor agreement, teams must provide the league office with any injury, sickness, and rest designations by 5 p.m. local time on the day before each game that is planned. The clause protects three different types of stakeholders at the same time. The financial interests of customers who base their purchasing and logistical decisions on roster information, the integrity of legal sports betting markets that price player availability into their lines, and the league's institutional credibility as a professionally run organization. The second night of a back-to-back is the only CBA exception. The second night of a back-to-back was not the Portland Fire game. Caitlin Clark's injury classification was not filed by the Indiana Fever by that time. After supporters had entered the arena, tickets had been scanned and made non-refundable, concession and product transactions had been completed, and parking income had been collected, Clark was declared unavailable about an hour before tip-off. The institutional heart of this predicament is the financial order of those occurrences in relation to the disclosure timetable. A recorded, verifiable effort to create a post hoc explanation narrative that is unable to survive internal consistency assessment occurs when the problem shifts from a documented reporting violation to something that bodies regard with far more gravity.
This is Indiana Fever reporter Scott Agnes. Fever guard Caitlin Clark will not play tonight versus Portland. I'm told it's part of a strategic management plan for the season. So in that tweet, he said it's part of a strategic management plan. Now fast forward to this updated story on Caitlin Clark not being in uniform.
The main credentialed beat reporter for the Indiana Fever, Scott Agnes, provided the first public explanation for Clark's absence. A journalist who sources straight from the official communication infrastructure of the organization. According to Agnes, he was informed that Clark's absence was a component of the season's strategic management strategy. Killamny precisely parse the sentence. A medical emergency reaction is not the same as a strategic management strategy. When an athlete wakes up with unanticipated bodily issues, it is not a same-morning reactionary choice. A strategic management plan is, by definition, a planned, prospectively constructed operational decision made before the event it rules. It suggests that staff members who were aware of the plan's existence and its planned implementation decided to rest Clark prior to game day, maybe even days in advance. The injury reporting infraction is not a procedural error if that description is true. In order to allow the team to finish their whole pre-game revenue cycle before the information was made public, a known planned roster choice was purposefully withheld from the required disclosure procedure for a while.
Performed tonight. Stephanie White says she found out around 5 p.m. Clark woke up with some soreness, and now look, she's healthy. We're not managing anything. Wait a minute. Before, he just said right here, a strategic management plan.
Then Stephanie White took the microphone at the post-game news conference, and in just one speech, she delivered a clear, recorded refutation of the organization's own description. When questioned about the absence, White informed the gathered reporters that she was feeling a little sore when she got up, but that she was okay and that nothing was wrong. Put the two statements in order. Sourcing directly from inside the franchise, the organization's official beat reporter provides a strategic management plan, a word that suggests sophisticated organizational understanding, planning, and premeditation. A few minutes later, the head coach declares on the record that the player is in good health and that nothing is being managed by the organization. A player who your business simultaneously describes as healthy and unmanaged cannot have a strategic management plan. The two claims are not part of the same universe of facts. One of these is untrue. League investigators looking into a possible CBA breach do not need to rebuild the documentation of both, which was created by the same entity within the same news cycle. The organization's own communication system has rebuilt it.
So just following up on Caitlin from earlier, she didn't practice yesterday. Why was she not listed on the injury report, or why wasn't the injury report updated like earlier today if she woke up with soreness in her back?
Well, not everybody that doesn't practice or gets a pro day is on the injury report, so that happens all the time. And she wasn't listed on the injury report earlier because we expected her to play.
She did not practice yesterday. Y'all at least knew by the morning she was not playing. Y'all knew by the morning when she said after the workout from yesterday, she still did not feel well at all. Y'all knew the girl wasn't playing. You waited until people already got the tickets, was already walking through the doors to put it out. Stop lying.
Additional information pertinent to the league's enforcement stance was generated during the press conference. Given that Clark had not participated in practice before the game, a reporter carrying out the fundamental accountability job that credential journalism exists to accomplish immediately questioned White about why Clark had not been on the required pre-game injury report. White's answer on Paul's blog described players skipping practice without an injury report classification as a common occurrence. Because the CBA's reporting requirement does not exempt practice absences from the disclosure obligation when those absences relate to a player's game day availability, that characterization, if true, would itself constitute a systematic reporting practice that the league office would have an independent interest in investigating. White refused to provide the reporter particular medical information on the kind of back ailment, referring the question to the training staff instead. It is not a communication posture that indicates organizational confidence in the accuracy of the stated explanation when a head coach declines to provide medical details for a game-time scratch while simultaneously describing the player as healthy and allowing a beat reporter to characterize the decision as a strategic management plan.
So if there's anything more detailed than that, that's the training staff.
Do you think the Fever could get fined for not listing her as
No.
in the injury report?
No.
Thank you.
Obviously, AD came back today with.
The conversation that characterizes the Indiana Fever organization's current institutional moment then took place. On video and for the record, the reporter asked Stephanie White directly whether she thought the Fever may be punished by the WNBA for failing to include Caitlin Clark in the injury report. In response to a professional journalist posing a professional accountability question regarding a documented potential CBA violation that impacts the financial interests of thousands of consumers and the integrity of legal sports wagering markets with which the league has commercial partnerships, White's response, delivered with apparent dismissiveness, was, "No, thank you." That is not a coaching choice. It's not a basketball viewpoint. It is a recorded on-camera description of her team's attitude toward the league office's enforcement power that she works for. It makes it clear that she views the subject as being beyond serious discussion, which is a description of the league's enforcement credibility rather than just her own legal confidence. That video will have been seen by Commissioner Engelbert's office. That video will have been seen by the league's sports betting partners, whose contractual ties with the WNBA depend on the accuracy of player availability reporting. The teams in the league that adhere to the 5 p.m. The footage would have been seen as a non-negotiable operational standard reporting obligation. Organizations are not punished retroactively by the league. It looks for organizations to determine if its own regulations are enforceable in the future. The enforcement calculation changes when a head coach openly indicates on camera that she does not believe such rules are effectively enforced against her team. This is because the precedent being established is no longer limited to a single game. It concerns whether the reporting obligation is an administrative formality that is implemented selectively or whether it is a true institutional norm.
Friday's game versus the Golden State Valkyrie, and this is courtesy of Venom React. Shout out to Venom. Take a look at this real quick before we get into it.
So, Caitlin Clark is already out versus the Golden State Valkyries on Friday. So, something that was just...
This is on the Indiana Fever injury report for Friday.
The franchise's following actions provide more supporting evidence. After the Portland game, the Indiana Fever formally declared Caitlin Clark out for the next game against the Golden State Valkyries. This was done well in advance of the game and in accordance with the reporting schedule that the team had refused to adhere to for the Portland game. It is possible to record the change in behavior. An organization has shown a recorded behavioral reaction to external accountability demand by going from zero pre-game disclosure to multi-day advanced disclosure in the course of a single news cycle dominated by reporting violation scrutiny. The description that the Portland reporting failure was a procedural error is not supported by that behavioral sequence. Procedural errors do not immediately result in full behavioral adjustments in the precise direction needed to stop them from happening again. Direct investigation is also necessary for the medical time frame that this event suggests. Back pain that developed the morning before the game was cited as the reason for Clark's absence from Portland. The organization's decision to rule her out for the Valkyries game many days in advance suggests that she has a medical problem that will take longer to heal than the one-game rest period that was proposed on the morning of the explanation. The statement, "She woke up with some soreness paired with she is healthy, we are not managing anything," does not adequately describe a back problem that necessitates several game absences and multi-day prior reporting. There is a discrepancy between the claimed reason and the physical timing. The league office has the authority and analytical resources to investigate whether Clark's physical condition was harmed by the demands of White's rotation structure and the 37-plus minute averages that analysts and medical commentators have noted throughout the season. It would be immediately addressed by the internal medical data, practice attendance records, and training staff communications that the CBA grants the league access to in an inquiry. Without waiting for official enforcement action, the franchise's business repercussions are already becoming apparent. The venue where the Valkyries game will take place has already absorbed the news that Clark won't be accessible. The most straightforward market signal for the value of the franchise's product in the absence of its key asset is the attendance and revenue difference between Clark present and Clark missing home games. The market is documenting that difference in real time without the need for editorial interpretation. Right now, the ownership position of the Simon family calls for a particular form of institutional clarity. By every quantifiable measure, their asset, Clark's contract with the Indiana Fever, is the most commercially important player-franchise pairing in WNBA history. There is just one source for the broadcast rights premium, product sales, the effect of road game attendance, and sponsorship values. Basketball decisions are not the only operational choices made by the front office and coaching staff that impact an asset's availability, well-being, and professional relationship with the team. These are business choices that directly and quantitatively affect the ownership group's investment. An ownership group that is fully aware of the current documentation, the reporting violation, the conflicting public statements, the dismissal of league enforcement authority on camera, the timeline of Clark's physical condition, and her documented stance regarding her long-term extension does not continue to watch passively. It steps in because the alternative is to let the recorded record become longer while the window of opportunity for proactive organizational adjustment is closing. Everything is available at the WNBA League office. The chronology is available to the public. The CBA's wording is clear and unambiguous. The video from the press conference has been stored. The conflicting claims are recorded. The intentionality of the Portland failure is shown by the behavioral adjustment in the Valkyrie's reporting. The way the league handles that record will determine if its own regulations are institutionally real, not just for the Indiana Fever but for all teams, determining whether it is worthwhile to comply with the reporting obligation when doing so would be costly. WNBA Pro is this. Subscribe now and enable alerts if you want fully sourced, CBA-based, institutionally rigorous record of all developments inside this team and at the league level. The transcript of the news conference is available to the public. The timetable for reporting is recorded. The behavioral sequence is self-explanatory. Post your analysis in the comments section. Does the Indiana Fever's reporting failure amount to a willful breach of the CBA given the recorded discrepancy between the head coach's on-record comments and the beat reporter's description? What level of accountability must the league follow in order to maintain the integrity of its own regulations? Every well-informed viewpoint in the comment area is important. We'll see you in the next video.